This presentation, titled Ethical Conflicts in Auditing and Benefits of Remote Auditing, comes to us from IJ Arora. IJ is the president and CEO of Quality Management International Inc., QMII, which has worked with Exemplar Global for 30 plus years. He has a 32-year record of achievement in the military, mercantile marine, and civilian industries. IJ serves as a team leader for consulting, advising, auditing, and training in management systems, specializing in several ISO and industry-specific standards. He is an Exemplar Global Certified Lead Auditor and a member of the U.S. TAG to ISO TC 176, the committee responsible for the ISO 9000 family of standards. IJ is a popular speaker at several universities and forums on management systems, conflict management, crisis communications, and leadership, and his writing has appeared in numerous industry publications. And with that, take it away, IJ.
Thank you, Mike. It's wonderful to be back again. Ethical conflict in auditing and benefits of remote auditing is my chosen subject today. Thank you for giving me the choice, Exemplar Global, to pick up a subject which is of interest and relevance today. And for this, I dug into my vast experience of auditing, consulting, and training for over 30 plus years. I meet numerous industry leaders, organizational heads, CEOs, and I ask them, why don't you believe in auditing? What is the doubt? And most of them seem to be like Zorba the Greek answering the question, are you married? Yes, wife, children, and the full catastrophe. Why do they say this? Why is it in their mind that auditing is not useful? And the audits don't give benefits. All we need is to meet the formality. And therefore, I picked up these few subjects for this short presentation, conducting value-added auditing, overcoming challenges of virtual audits, role of auditor judgment, managing internal ethical conflicts, steering clear of ethically compromising solutions and situations. So when I look at this, I think of the basic ethics in auditing. Unethical, unreliable auditing has brought the integrity of the auditing profession into question. If you notice the changes to ISO 19011-2018 from the 2011 version, you are surprised that most of the changes are actually referring to ethics. There is no principled great change apart from the more and more of ethics being included. And I do lead several number of auditors in my team, and I often ask them this question: is drawing audit conclusions without objective evidence unethical auditing? It's a very pertinent question. Are you basing your audit conclusions honestly on the facts that you collected? Since 2016, we have a new standard, ISO 37001, on anti-bribery management systems. And my question is, why was a standard necessitated for organizations to combat bribery? And why the risk of bribery has come in? The entire global supply chain is vulnerable to it. Prevention, detection, and addressing of bribery has become a requirement. Trust in a business, its processes, and the transparency with which an organization produces and delivers services and products is very important. The auditors are expected to deliver audit reports that can be trusted. And to this, I look at these 7 principles of auditing in front of you. The principles given in the Code of Ethics do provide the expectations from both auditors and from the organization's leadership. In the conduct of internal auditing, integrity of internal auditors is a vital prerequisite if the audit reports are to be trusted and if they will provide reliable, objective inputs to the leadership. An audit which is not useful to the leadership is no good. It's a waste of money. So why do many managements not consider audit inputs as decision enablers remains a question. As auditors, therefore, it is essential to us, each of us, the very existence and usefulness of the profession to deliver honest, ethical, objective inputs to the top management. As we consider each of these principles, we look at integrity, fair presentation, due professional care, confidentiality, independence, evidence-based approach, risk-based approach. If you carefully look at each of these 7 principles, you will see that the good auditors must take precautions to ensure ethics are maintained. Because if the auditor does not present fairly, is not accurate, misses out facts, is not diligent and doesn't make the correct judgments, the audit will not be useful to the top management. Oh, all right. So current state of audit training. I look at it at QMI, we conduct a lot of training and lead auditors, and I know that lead auditor, internal auditor courses train auditors in the relevant standards together with ISO 19011. We train them extensively in what is there. Auditors may also undergo a test that identifies the personal attributes. Some of them take Myers-Briggs, etc. However, no specific training in ethical auditing or on how to recognize an ethical conflict is given. How to decide on the severity of consequences and make a judgment is not given. So the subject comes up, how do we do this? I think it is essential that some kind of training be included. I'm told that Exemplar Global is considering an online assessment of auditor behavioral patterns. And therefore, we will have a better judgment on the auditing. Auditor competence, I think, therefore, should include training on audit ethics and conflicts. So what are the ethical conflicts? Leadership of companies must be able to place trust in its objective assurance about risk management, control, and conduct of the audit program. There should be no scope for misuse of material, information. There should be no reason why auditors should be giving recommendations and advice. If a requirement is not met, please give a non-conformity. Don't systematically kill the management by giving advice. Let them do their own root cause analysis. Lack of full disclosure. There should be no management pressure on auditors. Job security, organizational hierarchy, economic ties. Be careful about conflicts. I've been on an audit personally, a particular one that I'm referring here, where the quality manager, I was in a country abroad, not in the United States, where the quality manager came up and told me, if I gave him a non-conformity, he would lose his job. He has 7, 8 children. I will be responsible for their going hungry or whatever. Now, such are the pressures. We have to see no pressures act upon us. Another vulnerability I see is as we make our checklists, we must decide what we want to sample. The code of ethics is very important and applies everywhere. It is not only when you are looking at the feasibility of the audit, it is also during the audit. Consider audit sampling. The intent of auditing is to provide objective assurance, trust in audit outputs, and should add value to the organization. If sampling itself is suspect and picked to hide the truth, that the audit report would not be useful in enabling objective decision making. And therefore, what you pick, the judgment-based sampling the statistical, whether to pick up sequential, consequential, after the objective evidence has been updated, etc. You have to decide when you want to do the sampling. Random sampling without a methodology may not deliver the confidence that the objective has been met. You do oversampling, you don't have time to meet the scope of the audit and the objective. You may waste time. So the auditor decides on sampling carefully. And herein comes the question, what is he going to sample? Care must be exercised there. Then I look at non-conformities, writing non-conformity statements. And when I talk to auditors, when I train auditors, when I go on lead audits and talk to them, I always ask them the question, can you define a non-conformity? Do you understand the anatomy of a non-conformity statement? That it has three distinct parts: a requirement, objective evidence, and a nature, which is the conclusion. What was the failure? What did they not do? But the prime thing is the objective evidence must clearly indicate that a requirement has not been met. Are we ensuring that we are picking up the clause carefully? Are we remembering that non-conformity is the non-fulfillment of a requirement and not based on the auditor's opinions or his experience? Use the experience to ask the questions. Non-conformity should drive corrective action and correction. Non-conformity should not hide objective evidence or alter the facts. And therefore, also the importance of categorizing non-conformities. Some are more serious. You must use the company guidelines in deciding whether they are critical or major, where you see system absence, system breakdown, failure to comply with the standard, repetitive problems, including, for example, when repetitive problems are related to implementation. Normally, just not implementing would be a normal non-conformity. I also think a major non-conformity should relate to if there is an incidence of pollution, breach in security, safety, or it will affect the human injury. And less critical, you can decide as minor non-conformities. Now, there are immature organizations who try to avoid getting non-conformities and certainly don't want major non-conformities. But the fact remains, if there is a non-conformity, and especially if it is a major non-conformity, it is not going to change. You have to go into the root causes. Auditors cannot be a part of underplaying a non-conformity. It is an internal audit, therefore an internal non-conformity. The management can always close it or accept the risk and live with it. Why try to hide it? Why not let it be in the database? Because please remember, data drives risk and trends. When you don't record it, you are also not being able to predict the risk for future. Why must an auditor be unethical and not let facts drive the conclusion is the point. Towards this end now, I want to bring in this new aspect of auditing, applicable audit methods. I put this table from 19011 just as a placeholder to convey the significance of this positive change wherein remote auditing is now acceptable. Since a lot of us old-timers, as also many managements and leadership, do not think remote audits will achieve the desired results as in case of an in-person on-site audit. I think it is a case of mindset. Technology is moving ahead. I have personally, in these few months, performed several remote audits. And in each case, the inputs proved valuable to the clients. They were reluctant initially. For example, one of my clients is a foreign government, a part of it, an arm of the government. Another is one of the US federal agencies, a manufacturing company in Vietnam. Each of them, we could conduct a successful audit and they found the inputs most useful. Modern technology, efficient internet are modern tools. Why not use this to advantages? Sure, I agree. There will be challenges. There will be challenges. Whether you use remote auditing or you consider the security and confidentiality of electronically transmitted information, the integrity of information received, the objectivity. Yes, we will consider all this. We do consider where military is involved or some kind of specialized auditing where financial figures are involved or a trade secret is involved. It is for the company to make the decision. But this is true that with these new tools, we can do remote auditing. No direct interaction with the client. My experience says with the remote audits is a cost-effective and an ethical option. So let us look at some of the advantages of remote auditing. Auditing is an evolution to collect objective evidence and determine conformity, whether you do it when you are on board, when you are present, when you're in the organization, or you do it remotely. Remote audits to an extent support a conflict and influence-free audit. There are no guides, no diversions, no lunches, no discussion. Removes the in-person biases and influences. Appeals about job losses, like I mentioned, and sentimentality aspects are all removed. Good preparation with a proper checklist can ensure best utility of time to meet the audit objectives, stay within the scope, within the criteria. Neither party is distracted, and auditor safety is not a concern. You're not going to fall into a tank or go into a wrong side or make a mistake. Everything is presented to you by them. You are also able to make better judgments. Please remember, establishing the correct requirement is one of the jobs you have to do. Auditors are expected to give a non-conformity when a requirement is not met. But which requirement? It is dependent on the method of investigation, who to get the information from, what size, sample size to look at, how long should you persist, etc. And you will see that if it is not a non-conformity, you want to move on, you want to be able to consult a specialist if required, maybe in your team, maybe a phone call elsewhere. Take, for instance, this actual incident. Again, it involves me, where during an auditor, I saw clear objective evidence of product release procedure not being followed. The rings to be fitted needed a test certificate. The certificate had not come. The organization released the product without following the procedure that they must have the certificate just to ensure on-time delivery. So it is a simple ISO 9001 8.6 release of product non-conformity. But look at this now. But in this case, who would suffer the consequences of the release procedure for the product not being followed? My question is, in this case, if the rings turn out not to be in specification, it is the customer who has suffered. If the customer has suffered, you have lost customer focus. It therefore can be a clause 512 non-conformity. So here is the judgment to be exercised. Should I give an 8.6 or should I give a 5.12? The top management, the leadership, the auditee, they would prefer a simple 8.6 non-conformity. Hey, they forgot to follow the procedure. But a mature, ethical auditor would not be influenced. He would say, no, it is more serious. You lost customer focused. Therefore, it must be a 512 non-conformity. So here the question comes up. Is it because it is ethics? Is it because it is a case of auditor incompetence in picking up the correct clause? Is it personal influence by the manager or the top management on the auditor? All of them play a part. But please remember, whatever the reason, the conclusion will be unethical behavior by the auditor. And therefore, we are concerned that ethical auditing considerations are given all the weightage. As far as possible, please audit during working hours. If there is a requirement to audit during the night shift, please ensure presence of suitable management. Do not be influenced by guides. Avoid acceptance of any gifts, etc. There are guides when you go abroad, etc. They will stay with you. They will take you maybe sightseeing or whatever. Please remember, you are coming under the influence. You need to stay out of it. Avoid acceptance. Clarify lunch, etc. Keep it simple. All these points are not because only it's an experience. They are from 19011, the auditing principle. Stay within the scope and criteria of the audit. Please remember, there were times the auditors looked at something extra. Today, going out of the scope to gather evidence could be construed as probing outside the given scope. The management has a right to ask you, why are you probing outside? Please note that auditors are known to have gathered information for competitors. You as an individual may be well intended to give additional value, but the organization may not see it in that light. It may not only be considered as going out, but not spending enough time on the given audit objective. Keep that in mind, please. Leadership's role. Corporate accountability and governance is a relevant point. It is difficult to assess. It is the lead auditor's responsibility to prepare himself, herself, and their team well by studying the organization. The organization's leadership is required to create the environment for quality. And this is to be assessed. Therefore, prepare yourself. Lead the ethical culture. Encourage ethical responsibility in others. Personnel feel comfortable to speak up. Both parties are involved. Top management is involved on how they have prepared their auditee, their managers, their supervisors in not hiding anything. Questions success of the audit program. It is a good leadership when they say, what has this audit given me? I could not use it to make any decisions. I wanted to resource for the next PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act, but I didn't get any input. Challenge your auditors, challenge your audit program. Welcome non-conformities. Create an environment for quality. Please remember, the only bad non-conformity is the one you do not know about. Because if you know about your non-conformities, they will drive correction and corrective action. So I think in summing up, I would say leadership at both ends. Leadership of the organization, leadership in the auditor training programs, lead auditors who conduct the audit, both have to realize that ethical auditing is beneficial to both. Your confidence in your auditing mechanism goes up. Your decision making is based on facts. Resourcing is based on facts. And the new remote auditing has added value to that by removing certain amounts of unethical conduct. That's all. Thank you. Over to you, Mike.
And thank you, IJ Arora, for your insights into auditing ethics and the benefits of remote auditing. And that concludes this presentation.